Hello, all of my lovely artists. This is your friendly neighborhood art teacher, Miss Asbury, and today we are going to be doing a project that celebrates Black History Month. As you know, Black History Month is celebrated in February along with Valentine's Day, and it's a time that, especially in art class, we like to celebrate important African American people in history and in the present. So we're going to be talking about a Black artist today. Her name is Alma Thomas, and she died, I believe, in about the 1970s. And her art is really cool because it makes me think of mosaics and stained glass. So we are going to be doing an artwork that's just like her style, and she was called an expressionist. She used a lot of pretty colors and a lot of cool designs to create her compositions. So we're gonna go ahead and get started, and all you're gonna need are colorful things. It does not have to be construction paper. It can be anything you have around the house. I'm gonna be using cupcake liners because I had a bunch of those with pretty designs because I like baking. You could even use colorful duct tape if you have it. You can use candy wrappers, old wrapping paper from Christmas or birthdays. You can use old colorful artwork that you just never quite liked right, and that way you can make it into something new. There's a bunch of things that you can do to make a gorgeous artwork. So let's get started. This project has a lot of freedom to it because it's not like we're creating a specific picture. It's not like we're doing a landscape or a portrait of somebody. All you need to get started with is a piece of paper for your background. I'm going to use this white square just because I had it lying around, but you could use a rectangular piece of paper or whatever you have. And we just need to start by cutting out a circle. I could leave mine like this even if I wanted to, but I kind of want to make mine a little smaller. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out a circle out of my cupcake liner. Does not have to be perfect. It's okay if yours looks more like a blob or an oval. I'm going to take my glue, and I can put my circle anywhere I like on my paper. If you're using liquid glue, remember you only need to use little drops. And I'm going to stick mine off to the side a little bit, right here. The rest of this project is really simple. Alma Thomas really liked to use tiny rectangles to make her mosaics. So I luckily have these scraps of paper that are skinny rectangles, and I'm just going to chop them up. You can also do this with newspapers. That would be a really cool thing to add. And we'll start with that many and see what happens. All right, let's get it off my space. To talk a little bit more about our artist's history, she was born in Georgia back in the late 1800s. I believe she was born in 1891. And her parents left Georgia to go to Washington because they just faced a lot of racial discrimination and they wanted to be safer. And up in the north in Washington, there were way more opportunities both for her parents to find jobs and for Alma to receive a really good education. And especially since she wanted to be an artist, Washington had a lot of artistic opportunities. At this time, segregation was still in effect, the whole separate but equal. So Alma did not get a lot of exposure to things like art museums or art classes when she was young. Luckily, once she moved to Washington with her family, she was able to experience these things, and she got to think about, hey, maybe I want to be an architect, maybe I want to design buildings. But eventually she decided to go into painting and more two-dimensional work, like what we're doing now. So as you can see, I'm just taking my rectangles and I'm cutting them just to a pretty small size and arranging them in circles, little rings, around that first circle I put down. Almost like Saturn with Saturn's rings in space. Our elements of art mostly being talked about here are shape and pattern. So I'm going with solid colors for each of my rings, but you can always switch it up. For example, let me finish up my yellow ring. I don't even have to cut each paper. I could really just tear it if I wanted to. Once I finish this ring, I'm gonna fit as many as I can, just like that. Might need one more scrap of yellow. Instead of doing rings that are the same color all the way around the circumference, what you can do is have a pattern for your rings. So for example, I could start with orange and then add a red, then add orange, then add red. Now, I believe that Alma Thomas usually had an idea of what color she wanted to use before she started her work. And I'll have some examples of her work up on the website on Schoology, if you haven't seen them already. So she was very practiced in the method of color theory. And I don't know if you've noticed yet, but for my piece, I really decided to use primarily warm colors. If you'll remember, warm colors are our fire colors. So red, orange, yellow, even pink. I don't have any pink on here, but pink is definitely included in our warm colors. You don't have to do warm colors. You could go the opposite way and do cool colors. Remember, cool colors are our ocean colors, the ones that make us feel calm, like blue, green, and purple. And even if you didn't want to use colorful paper, you could do more of a neutral thing. And by neutral, I mean that you could use colors, like if you didn't do a white background, you could use white paper bits or browns or blacks and make a more neutral art piece, because not all art has to be colorful. Think about if you're doing a landscape. Usually we don't have rainbow skies. Usually that has some neutral colors like brown dirts and gray mountains, and that's perfectly okay. Just because it's not colorful doesn't mean you're not going to enjoy it. Maybe one day we'll talk about an artist that uses more neutral colors to make successful artwork. I'll have to look into that. Personally, as an artist, I like to use colorful colors, but that's just because I like my artwork to look happy. I like art that I can look at and it makes my heart happy. And sometimes I wonder if me and Alma Thomas were the same as that, because most of her artwork's very colorful and happy too. Alright, so I'm going to keep going with my pattern all the way to the edge of my paper. And I'm also going to glue down what I already have. So I'm going to speed up my video. So you're about to see my hands start flying, and I will talk to you guys in just a second. So sit tight. Alright my friends, so while we finish talking about these, I'm going to go ahead and add just some last little details so I can get to the edge of my paper. I'm going to use some more cupcake liner, I think. What I want you to remember with Black History Month, for one thing, I'm no expert. I honestly feel like since I'm not black, that I can't possibly understand all the struggles that they have gone through history. And I also know that not everybody had to go through those struggles, but what can we remember? What we can remember is that we can prevent any more discrimination if we can just remember to be kind to each other and think before you speak, okay? Because I feel like a lot of problems just come from us not thinking from other people's perspectives. And if we learn to be sympathetic and to be kind, maybe in the future we can create a better world and we can make beautiful art as a result. So I hope you think about that this Black History Month. and remember these people that have just created such a beautiful history out of hardship. If anything, especially with our artists, we know that people like Alma Thomas can take their hardships and rise above it. And that's why we celebrate people like her, Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, Ella Fitzgerald, Louis Armstrong, all these wonderful people today in support of the amazing lives they lived. And even people who are still today. On a less heavy note, I will say one more element of art that I forgot to talk about is space. So even if you wanted your pieces to be less spread apart, if you didn't want as much white space showing in between, you can, of course, have these put closer together. And I'll show you that here. So like instead of having a little row, you could put the next color right up against it, like that. But it all depends on you. So that's about it for me. Once you have created your own Alma Thomas inspired artwork, please do not forget to submit a picture of it for me online on Schoology. The Dropbox is always there. It always says Dropbox. You can just take a picture on your laptop's webcam and send me your finished Alma Thomas mosaic. But with that being said, please remember, be kind to one another. Make a new friend. Say I love you often. And be good humans. I love you and I miss you. And I will catch you next time. Bye, guys.